In early April, dozens of people protested outside a branch of the People's Bank of China in Henan, demanding to withdraw their deposits. They wrote on banners and posters, "Silicon Valley Bank in the United States received deposits within 3 days, while depositors of Henan Rural Commercial Bank have not received a penny in the past year." Last April, scandals of difficulties in withdrawing money erupted in 5 rural commercial banks, including 4 in Henan and 1 in Anhui Province. In July, local regulatory authorities in Henan stated that funds had been advanced to depositors in batches, but many out-of-town depositors still had not received their advanced payments. It is estimated that 400,000 depositors were affected by the bank failures. On Friday, April 21, CNN reported that a protester surnamed Du, who declined to give his full name, said they just wanted to get their money back, but this request was also rejected. They deposited all their savings of 5 million yuan into one of the collapsed rural commercial banks. "I have to beg or accept donations to get by," Du said. "If I can't get the money soon, my children and I will have nowhere to go but live on the streets." Last year, some depositors of Henan rural commercial banks took to the streets to protest and demand a resolution to their withdrawal problems. As a result, the protesters were beaten by local police. Some of them are still being tracked, harassed, or physically attacked by local officials. Later, the Henan provincial government blamed the scandal on financial fraud, arrested more than 200 suspects, and promised to reimburse depositors. The China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission blamed the crisis on unscrupulous shareholders of a few banks, as well as third-party platforms and brokers. Protesters said that although most depositors received their money in the past year, it is estimated that thousands of people have still not received any advanced payments. "We had our money stolen, and we were treated like criminals," Du said. Experts say that with China's economy facing long-term structural slowdown, many village and town banks are facing the same crisis. Xie Tian, a professor at the University of South Carolina Aiken, told CNN, "This is just the tip of the iceberg, and there are similar situations in other provinces. At least 1/3 or 1/4 of China's small banks are in trouble. These small banks usually have opaque ownership and governance structures and are more susceptible to corruption by government officials. In the past, small banks relied on financial products linked to the real estate industry to obtain higher returns, but when the real estate bubble burst and the economy slowed down, funds were likely to dry up." Experts say that authorities may be more willing to compensate local depositors to prevent them from gathering and organizing protests in the area. Uncompensated victims, on the other hand, say they have not even received the legally mandated deposit insurance of up to 500,000 Chinese yuan per depositor per month that the government promised in the event of a bank failure. Experts say this is because the government does not want to set a precedent, as it would be unable to bear the cost of compensating all of the country's small banks that are in trouble if they were to fail one after another. Many of the uncompensated victims are middle-class families who were attracted by the high returns of rural banks. Now many of them are struggling, and some have compared their predicament with the treatment of American depositors in the recent U.S. banking crisis. They point out that U.S. regulators acted quickly and restored confidence in the banking system by guaranteeing that customers of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, both of which failed, would receive all their funds, including uninsured deposits. But in China, they can only live in fear of violent retaliation. A couple surnamed Li deposited their lifelong savings in Anhui Rural Credit Union. Last year, they found themselves unable to withdraw their money. They did not participate in the summer protests, but they did protest at the People's Bank of China and government departments in Henan Province. During this year's National People's Congress, the couple was illegally detained on an island outside Shanghai by unidentified law enforcement officers. "We were detained for 11 days. They illegally detained us, confiscated our bank cards, mobile phones, wallets, and even my belt," Mr. Li told CNN. "I cooperated with them very well, but they still beat me." Illegal detention of this kind is not uncommon in China. In the past, it was mainly used to prevent people from going to Beijing to petition during major events. Zhang, a lawyer living in Beijing, also said that the way banks are handled domestically and internationally is completely different. Zhang said that many Chinese lawyers have been told by the authorities not to represent bank victims. He himself is a victimized depositor, so he has stopped his daily legal work and devoted all his energy to recovering depositor funds. Zhang is preparing to file various legal cases and has been in contact with many depositors. He said that many depositors are facing anxiety or depression and find it difficult to continue their previous work. "Some depositors, including myself, can't survive anymore," Zhang said. The government's attitude is that as long as the person who raised the issue is resolved, there is no need to repay the money.